Courtney Friend is suing her former friend, Joseph T. Ivan Jr., for stealing money from her deceased husband's bank account.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, everyone, please.
Hello, Judge. Case 2190, Friend versus Ivy Jr.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Miss Friend, your husband passed away recently.
Yes.
When did he pass?
August 26, 2022.
What did he pass away from?
He took his own life.
You have kids?
I have one. I have a daughter. She's 7 months old. She was born June 14th, 2022.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
It is your claim that Mr. Ivan, after your husband's death, withdrew money from your husband's bank account. Was that a joint bank account or his own bank account?
It was under his, but
So it was his.
Yes.
So it was his bank account.
It was.
Did you also have a joint bank account?
We just shared that one. I wasn't working, and I'm not working. He is sole provider of our family.
So the bank account was in his name solely?
Yes.
Okay. How do you know the defendant?
We met in 2020. We worked together at Target, and that's my husband and I, and also the defendant.
So you worked there?
Yes.
Did you become social friends?
Yes.
And at some point, Mr. Ivan says that your husband needed money, that he was in some sort of difficulty with rent money.
Okay.
That's what Mr. Ivan says. In what month, Mr. Ivan, do you claim that you loaned money to Mr. Friend?
Mr. Whalen is his name.
Whalen.
Yeah. Michael and I are best friends from the day that we met, by the way. Just hit it off right away. So this gentleman would come to me and vice versa.
Just tell me.
The money we're talking about, August 17th, 2022.
And was the conversation about the money in your house?
Yes.
In your house?
Yes.
I'd like you to tell me what that conversation was.
Absolutely. Michael showed up at my door on August 17th. He needed money, and he needed away from the plaintiff.
Just a second.
Uh-huh.
Don't tell me what he needed. Tell me what he said to you.
His rent is very far behind, and he would like to borrow $1,500.
Did you ask him why?
Of course.
And what did he say?
Rent.
No. Why his rent was so far behind?
Oh, not exactly. He stayed with me for the next 2 days, so we had a lot of conversation about it.
Okay. So when he came on August 17th, he did not stay home with his wife and the new baby. He stayed with you for how many days?
For 2 that week.
You and your husband been having a difficult time?
We were the last couple weeks before his ending.
And he did, in fact, stay out. Did you know where he was staying?
No, I did not.
Okay, but you knew he was out.
Yes, I had asked him to leave.
Okay. Now, his rent in his house where his wife and his baby was overdue.
Yes, Your Honor.
And he needed $1,500 according to you, so what did you do?
I gave him the $1,500.
Mrs. Friend, in June, July, August, was your husband working?
Yes.
Same job?
He was working with Burlington, so yes.
Did your husband have any problems that you know of with either drugs or gambling?
I didn't know at the time.
But do you know now? Yes. What kind of problems did he have?
He was struggling with use of cocaine.
Okay, so that would account for his need for money and also for problems. Okay. Your husband was a young man. Did he have any life insurance?
He did, yes.
He did. How much?
It was, oh my goodness, it was $200,000.
Did the company pay on his life insurance? No, because he committed suicide?
Oh, it wasn't that. It was he had lapsed his payment. So I think his last payment was, I believe, in May, and he did not pay it. So because of that, they did not.
It lapsed?
Yeah.
It might not have been effective anyway since he took his own life. Okay, so you lent him $1,500. And How did you repay yourself and when?
Your Honor, I'd like to point out that she was very well aware of the fact that he was using cocaine for the better part of the year.
Just a second.
Okay.
Mr. Ivan, not necessary.
Okay. I repeat myself because that was our agreement. Michael was at my house a week later also. He logged onto my phone because he no longer had any belongings. He no longer had a physical wallet or a phone in his possession. He lost them. Miss Friend had his wallet, but I can show you that later. For now, he's asking me if he can put his memorized information on my digital wallet, which I can show you now if you'd like.
Yes.
It's still on my phone to this day.
His information.
Correct.
Okay.
With the agreement.
Just a second.
Courtney Friend claims her former friend, Joseph T. Ivan Jr., wrongfully took money from her deceased husband's bank account.
I want you to bring that up.
Yeah.
And Sarah, you're going to take a look at that?
It's the top card, sir. The one that says Chime. That's my digital wallet, my personal digital wallet.
So it's the same as when you put something in your Apple Wallet and you can pay using, I'm trying to think of the easiest way to describe this to you. If you log in to check your bank balance, you can save the card to your phone, so it makes it easier to pay with your phone. So it looks as if Mr. Friend logged in to the defendant's phone with his credentials and information.
So that
There's also latest transactions. The very last transaction was from 10/1/22.
And how much was that for?
$80 at a market. Then there's some gas stations.
That's for October. Prior to that.
There's a list of just latest transactions.
That's all those are the total transactions.
Yeah.
That you made?
Well,
just a second. There's an $80 transaction, according to Sarah, in October.
Yes, ma'am. So the way
was that your transaction?
It was.
Okay.
I have.
Well, just.
I'm sure they'll match with whatever.
$236 worth of charges. I charged $236 worth of charges.
From my husband's passing till.
Hold on. Hold. Well, I have $80 in October, but in transfer to, who is that?
That is
$1,400.
That is the deceased.
Who transferred that?
I transferred it. That is a GoFundMe account, and we'll get to this. The check that came through after he passed away hit my phone because he loaded his card onto my phone. The agreement was that I pay myself back when he was still alive with the funds that are on that phone.
Just a second.
The remaining I sent to a GoFundMe account.
Why did you do that? Just a second. I can almost understand Mr. Ivan.
Yeah.
Because what your position is, and I actually believe that it's accurate that your friend came to you.
100%.
That your friend came to you in need of money, that he and his wife were having difficulty, that he had an addiction problem, that he probably spent the rent money on his addiction problem. All of that sort of makes sense. And even though resorting to self-help after he passed, I would frown on. I would say this is a debt that's owed by his estate. And I could understand you, who had access to his account, taking back the $1,500 because you say that was his agreement with you, as was sort of buttressed by the fact that he put his banking information, and it's his sole banking information, on the card. But why would you transfer any other money other than the $1,500 out of his account?
Into his family's name, Your Honor, and I can show you why. I have transcripts with everyone that knows us. I could have a dozen people here. I'm sorry, I could have a dozen people here with me to make this claim, but this is a very sensitive situation for a lot of people involved. So I'm going to fight this fight on my own without them here.
Just a second.
And they will all tell you that this is the last person on earth that should have that money.
Just a second. This is not about you making a judgment or about 30 other people making
That's what Michael asked me to do.
Just a second. Sir, unless you have a writing from the deceased that's authenticated in the same process as would authenticate a will, you have no right to make that judgment as to whether or not his wife and or child, I assume he died without a will, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So under the laws of practically every state, if you die intestate, which means you die without a will, there's a certain order of people who inherit your money. Your spouse, your children, it goes sort of in order. There's a pecking order. You have no right to amend that. you actually don't even have a right to repay yourself after he's dead. You have no right to do that. But I can actually understand your sense that unless you paid yourself, you weren't going to get your money back. I can understand that. But whatever your intentions were, sir, you have no right to do anything else with the money in that bank account.
May I?
Am I making myself clear? I hope so. Is that clear? Yeah?
Brought me right back to Will's Trust and Estates. So.
Yeah, right. Go ahead.
Your Honor, Michael and I had an agreement, okay? So whether or not he...
Sure, just a second. You and Michael had an agreement that you made a loan to him in the amount of $1,500, and in order to secure your repayment, I read your answer, sir.
Yeah.
He gave you his account number, and according to you, he said, when I get paid, you can take the money back that you loaned to me. That's $1,500.
May I continue? I've only used $236. That's all that I've used. $236, and I can show you the math here on this spreadsheet, but let's start with $1,500. $845 he paid back to me on August 24th, a week later.
Oh, okay, hold on a second. So $1,500.
That's right.
And he paid you back what?
$845 on August 24th.
Good for him.
Right.
Did he pay you back by Michael? Just listen to me. Don't play. Did he pay you back by coming to your house and giving you the money? Or
Digitally.
Did he, shh. He paid you back digitally.
That's right.
May I see that, please, Kevin?
Using my phone and his account.
Shh. So now he owes you $655.
That's right.
Okay. Kevin, I'd like you to show this to the plaintiff. Have you seen this?
No.
Okay, I'd like to show this to the plaintiff. So Mr. Ivan acknowledges that your husband, Ms. Friend, pay
Yes,
attention,
yes.
that your husband paid him back more than half of what he had borrowed. Now, then you took back, Mr. Ivan, from the account how much money?
$236.
No. That's not true.
Shh,
We can go line by line.
shh.
Courtney Friend has accused her former friend, Joseph T. Ivan Jr., of stealing money from her deceased husband's bank account.
Which of these charges? There's an $80 charge, a $60. Are those your charges?
Yes.
Okay, hold on.
$140.
Just a second. $145,
Yes.
a $77.35.
Yes. And that's it. Those four.
What about Cash App?
That's the digital transaction that you just had.
Oh, an $845. Got it.
I'm still owed $392 for doing that.
Okay. Now, how much money do you allege, and I'm going to give this to you, or give you, you must have this. How much money do you allege that he took out of the account?
I'm asking for $2,700.
I don't care what you're asking for. That's irrelevant to me what you're asking for.
Okay.
How much money do you allege he took out of the account?
I think he took way more than what he's saying.
Oh, well, I don't care what you think. Miss
Well,
Friend.
it's proof
I don't,
right there.
I don't. Other than the $1,400, which he says he transferred to the GoFundMe page, did you receive for your daughter any part of this $1,400 that came from a GoFundMe page?
I have not, no.
Okay. Just a second.
Okay.
But the GoFundMe page was subsequent to your husband's death. Is that right?
Yeah.
Who started the GoFundMe page?
It was my husband's.
So this money did not belong to your husband. This money was not money from your husband. This money was started by somebody else, not the defendant, and somehow ended up in your husband's bank account. Am I getting that right?
No.
Well, what's this 14? How did it end
I
up?
transferred it from, that's Michael's bank account ledger that's attached to my digital wallet.
I understand.
And it's going to the GoFundMe. A GoFundMe is a special account that's set up in a tragic, or well, not necessarily.
I know exactly what it is,
Okay.
but what I'm not following is why would it not be in his...
It is. He's saying that is a to, not a receiving.
That's a debit, not a
$1,400,
credit.
He sent the $1,400 from
$100
Michael's
to the
account. The leftover.
Just a second. Oh, you can't do that. Sorry, sir. You can't do that. So you took out money that didn't belong to you because at best case scenario, you're still owed $400.
$392.
Yeah, okay, $400. You were still owed $400, and you withdrew $1,400 of Michael's money and sent it to the GoFundMe page.
Yeah, because of the fact that the last person on earth that Michael would want to have that money is this person right
That's not your judgment to make, sir.
That's fine.
That's just a second. That's not, listen to me. I tried to explain to you
Okay.
what the laws of intestacy are in this country. If you die without a will, there are certain people who get your money, whether the deceased hates them, wasn't talking to them, it doesn't make any difference unless he and his wife are separated by a lawful separation order by the court. She and his daughter are entitled to this money, and it's not up to his best friend or his best friend's friends or other people to say he was angry with her, she threw him out. Whatever the reason that you're saying Michael would want the last person to receive any money from this GoFundMe page is the plaintiff, that's not your decision to make. You took back some of your own money, he paid you back some, you may get skunked for $400.
I don't want it.
Just a second, you may get skunked for $400, but if you sent this money to a GoFundMe page and that was $1,400.
For the family's name, Your Honor.
You can't do that.
That's fine. I did it because Michael would not want her to have it, so I gave it to his family.
Okay, well, you can't do that, sir.
I have a baby.
I'm not faulting you emotionally, sir.
Yeah.
Listen to me. You were there. You provided a shelter for Michael
to get away
when
from
he
her.
was.
That's right. I'm sorry. I'll stop. That's a fact. It's just the truth.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,400. We're finished.
This court is adjourned.
It doesn't matter. The woman's a fraud. She's a fraud. That money should not be going to her. She's the last person on earth that this gentleman wanted to have that money.
I'm happy. I'm happy that she sided with me, listened to me, and
Oh, that's all she cares about is money. That's what this is all about.
knew that that was not right, because it's not. I mean, what kind of person would
Courtney's out for money. Always was in the relationship.
take money from a new mom, someone who's grieving? It's been such a mess, and I feel good about this.
Because I'm the only one who would do the right thing with it, and he knew that.
He was very defensive. He was very defensive and very hateful.
I'm the great guy. He'd want me to fight the good fight. All good.
He shouldn't have took anything from me. I've already lost so much.
Happy it's over.
I've lost my best friend, my husband, the love of my life, and the father of our new child. It's not okay. He caught me in a very vulnerable state.
That case, for as tragic as it was, and I really felt for the plaintiff, brought me right back to wills, trust, and estates, and the basic, 3 rules: age of majority, of sound mind, and a writing. And it's just really unfortunate that the plaintiff's husband didn't have one.
If I were to venture a guess, I would say that most people, when they're under 40, don't have a will.
Yeah.
He was a new father, baby.
Makes it all that much more important.
Yeah, it does. But he was a new father with a cocaine addiction.
Yeah. Tough to try and guess the mental state of someone going through that, but I also agreed with you that you can't fault the defendant for his emotional. He knew how his friend felt, and he was trying to carry out those wishes, but there is the law and there are rules,
right,
and you can't take it upon yourself to redistribute your friend's money.
Or the GoFundMe money. Yeah.
All good intention, but you got to follow the rules.
Right.
Giovanni Costello is suing his former friend, Jacob Knapp, for dental and medical bills.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Case 2110, Costello versus Knapp.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Costello, you and Mr. Knapp were out drinking in the park.
Yes.
Date and time.
The date and time was around 3 a.m. and it was on 9/11 of 2021.
And you've known Mr. Knapp for how long?
roughly 9 years. We started off playing high school baseball.
And when had you first met up on September 11th?
I can't remember the exact time. I would say around maybe 7 p.m.
Where?
At a bar over in Old Town Pasadena. We weren't meeting up.
Just a second.
Yeah.
So you were in a bar in Pasadena, 7 p.m., just the two of you, or were there more people?
No.
How many were there in the whole group?
I had around 5 or 6 people in my group, and we went
All
to a
friends?
Bar. Yeah.
And you?
He wasn't a part of that group.
But you were at the bar?
No, ma'am. I was at work when he contacted me.
Okay, so you were at the bar starting at 7 with your friends. He wasn't there.
Yeah.
Okay, what time did he join you?
It wasn't, I couldn't tell you the exact time.
Approximately.
About an hour later.
At the bar?
Yeah. But it wasn't a text or anything like that. He just happened to go to the same bar.
No, ma'am. What ended up happening from the start, I was at work. He contacted me via text. I don't
Do you have that text?
No, ma'am. I tried to erase the whole memory from my mind, so I deleted all the pictures and all the text messages.
Oh, well, that's
from that.
unfortunate.
Yes.
That's unfortunate. I've never done that, by the way. You know, wanted to erase something from my mind, so I didn't just say I'm not going to think about it anymore. I've never done that. You ever do that, Sarah?
I have not.
You have not. And she's pretty efficient with text messages. Did you ever do that?
Never have I done that.
No. Well, you must be unusual, sir. Okay, so you met at the bar. What time did you get there?
Well, my shift ended at around 9 o'clock.
What time did you get to the bar?
10 o'clock.
And when you got to the bar, you met Mr. Costello.
Yes, ma'am.
He had a few friends with him. How long did you stay at the bar?
We were there till 12.
Okay, so Mr. Costello, you had been drinking from 7 until about 12.
Correct.
The answer is yes. Yes, of course. And what's your drink of choice, sir?
Beer.
What else?
The first bar that we were at doesn't serve hard alcohol, so it was just beer there.
Okay, so from 7 to when were you at the first bar?
Yeah.
From 7 to when?
7 to when? Till
To
12.
12.
Yeah.
So it's
But I
7
was
to
driving
12.
at the same time as well.
Okay, so from 7 to 12, you were drinking beer.
Yeah.
And then where did you go at 12 o'clock?
After 12 o'clock, we ended up going to another bar in Arcadia.
Okay, and you stayed there from when to when?
From 12 to closing, which is 2 a.m.
And you were part of that group?
Yes, that's when I initially met the group.
At the second bar or
At
the
the
first?
second bar, yes.
Not at the first bar?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so you got to the second bar, you were there you said you were there at 10 o'clock.
Yes.
So they weren't there when you arrived?
They were there when I arrived, yes.
Well, he said that, I thought he said he got to the second bar at 12 o'clock.
I arrived at the bar around 10 o'clock, ma'am.
And you got there at 12 o'clock?
Yeah.
Yeah. So by the time you all got together and left the bar, you had all been drinking, you for a very long time and you for a shorter time.
Yes, ma'am.
So from 10 to 2, so 4 hours. And what's your drink of choice?
10 to 12, Your Honor. I apologize. 10 to 12.
Where did you go at 12 o'clock?
12 o'clock is when we had all decided to go to a park, kind of a low-key area.
No, well, he said that he went to a bar between 7 and 12. Am I correct, Whitney? Did he say?
7 and 12.
He said you were at the bar, first bar, between 7 and 12, drinking beer. That's what you said.
Correct.
You said the first bar only served beer. Mm-hmm. Is not an answer. Yes,
Yes,
is an
it is.
answer. You say at 12 o'clock, you went to a second bar where you had alcohol between 12 and 2.
Yes. Correct.
Yes?
Correct.
You got to a bar at 10 o'clock.
Yes.
Which one? The beer bar or the alcohol bar?
I finished my shift, like I said, at 9, and I showed up at the bar at 10 to meet up with them, to try to rekindle an old friendship.
Okay. Yeah. I actually don't care about that. All right, so partially you got your story straight, partially not. Anyway, you were two drunks. Now it's after 2 o'clock, and you decide to go to a park. How many people went to a park, and what park?
It was the same amount of people that I was with from the start.
And you were along at the park?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, it was.
Okay, did you take any beers to the park, or you went without them? You took
Yes.
beers to the park. The answer is yes.
Yeah, the main reasoning of going to the park was after the bar had closed. Jacob mentioned to the group that he had beers with him. So that incited us to go to the park and have some beers
continue
with him.
drinking.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, prior to me showing up, I did stop by 7-Eleven and pick
Okay, so you had beers with you, and you were at the bar.
Yes.
Nice, very good. Now you get to the park, you're drinking beers. Now you're going to describe what you say is the assault that you suffered at the hands of Mr. Knapp. Now, I want you to know my feeling before you tell me the story.
Okay.
I usually don't get myself overly exercised about what drunks do in a park. Do you understand? Mm-hmm. I know that you may be all exercised about it, although I'm not exactly sure you're all exercised about it. So if you really are, I'm going to listen to you. If you're not, we just eliminate this case. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Claims his former friend, Jacob Knapp, owes for dental bills after being hit in the mouth with a beer can.
Okay, go. You're in the park, drunk. He's in the park, drunk.
Yes.
And?
To state I was not drunk because I was driving my witness here.
I want to tell you something. If you were drinking from 7 to 2, you were drunk.
I hadn't been drinking the whole time that I was there.
Let's go.
So going into it, I was sitting at a park bench with Maureen here. And then I had another 2 friends that were on the other side. And we're hanging out. They had the 2 across from me got up. They went further into the park, and I was sitting with just her alone. And I was just about to show her a video off my phone. Next thing I know, I get hit in the face by a beer. After that occurs, I reach to my mouth to see something's wrong there, and I feel that like a part of my tooth is missing.
Okay, and that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
That's the assault that you're talking about.
Yeah.
And you allege that Mr. Knapp was the one who threw the beer bottle.
Yes.
Okay.
It was a full beer can.
A can?
Yeah, not bottle.
Did you report this incident to the police?
I did not take it to the police
Just
because...
a second, I'm just asking you.
Oh, sorry.
The answer is no.
No.
I disagree.
Disagree that he went to the police?
With his story.
Okay, I'll get there. Okay, so now you get hit in the face with a beer can, step by step. You look down, you look at your tooth.
Realize it's chipped. I say out loud, my tooth is chipped. She doesn't...
Don't tell me not about she. Just you.
Just me? I noticed it was chipped. And then after I announced that it was chipped, several of my friends, I guess, went towards him. And I don't know.
You didn't tell me anything about him. You didn't tell me. You just said you got hit in the face with a beer can.
Yeah.
That's all you said to me.
And he was the only other person that was standing right there, besides her sitting next to me.
So you didn't see him throw the beer can at you?
There was no one else there.
I'm just...
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I didn't see him throw it at me, but there was never a case of...
No, you didn't.
Of anything
That's
else.
all.
Yeah.
You didn't see him throw it at you?
No.
Okay, go.
From the park, Your Honor?
Take it from the park.
So
now I got 2 drunks in the park, maybe 3.
There was actually more than just 3 of us surrounding the table.
Just a second.
Me and him.
Go slowly.
Okay, sorry.
Slower.
Let me take
I
it
don't
down a
know
notch.
table. I have no idea what you're talking about.
So, as he was saying, we were sitting at a park bench. I had brought the beer. The beer was next to me. He had asked me to toss him a beer. And that's plainly what I did, was I underhanded him lightly a beer to him. And in his defense, he's saying he wasn't drunk, but it definitely was apparent that he was. When you
anybody who's been
toss
drinking
beer,
from 7 to 2 in the morning is drunk.
Yes, ma'am. So I lightly tossed him a beer, and unfortunately it was dark enough to where he had missed, and the beer had hit him in the face, which after immediately I started to apologize to him, stating that I didn't mean to, but it was apparent he was looking at me and did not catch the beer. So personally, I think everything he said to you right now was...
That's your story. You tossed him a beer because he asked you. He said, toss me a beer.
Yes, Your Honor.
And it was dark.
Yes.
And you were drunk. And he was drunk.
I wasn't drunk, Your Honor. I had 4 beers within the time of 10 o'clock till when this incident happened.
You know, I'm not real comfortable with that, sir.
Okay.
Because according to you, you had been drinking for 4 hours. And not only were you drinking for 4 hours, but you brought extra alcohol to have in the park. By the way,
which was a closed container.
Where do you live? In what
city? In Pasadena, Your Honor.
In California. Are you allowed to drink alcohol in parks in California?
I'm not certain.
Well, let's find out. Open beer cans in city parks in California.
That's a no.
So after...
We're not talking yet.
I'm sorry. Excuse me.
Drinking alcoholic beverages is a prohibited activity in parks and park areas, according to the Pasadena City Park rules.
Thank you. This park that you went to, what's the name of it?
I'm not sure. It was up the street from the last bar we were at.
Okay. Now, did you, Mr. Costello, and the defendant, immediately after this event, did you communicate with him via text or email?
I texted him, I think it was roughly a couple of days later.
Okay. I'd like to see the text.
I have that.
That's all I want to see. Don't say anything else.
Okay.
Just show me the texts that you sent him a couple of days later.
There it is.
Okay. Thanks, Kevin. I'd like to see these texts from your phone, and I'd like to see all your text messages starting September 14th
It's right here.
of 2021. No, sir, you have to understand. What you said to me here, what you gave me, is 2 texts a year apart. I want to see the texts to him.
There was nothing.
After September 14th, you mean he didn't respond at all to this? I don't believe that.
My next thing that I did was I sent a letter through the mail, and I have that here, and I have proof of it where I had it so where he had to sign for it, and I have the receipt for it as well.
What date?
That one, I can pull it up right here.
I'm sorry, what letter? I never received a letter.
Just a second. So what you're telling me is that I'm supposed to believe that after you sent this email on September 14th, which is 3 days after the event, he never responded to you, and you never sent a follow-up email or text.
That was the letter. And in the letter I gave him...
Shh, just a second.
Okay.
Oh, here. Take this back. It's nonsense. I don't want to see something prepared for litigation, sir. You said you had a document that you sent to him that he had to sign for. If you sent him a letter, return receipt requested, then you have a return receipt requested with a signature on it. That's a document that you prepared 2 days ago.
I have the receipt in here.
Let's get it.
Okay.
I never signed such document.
Just don't shout out again.
Yes, ma'am.
It's annoying, and I'm annoyed enough with this case.
I'm sorry for being so unorganized.
Me too.
Yeah.
I'm sorry you're so unorganized too, or disorganized.
Oh, here it is.
Great.
Certified mail. They're stuck to the back one.
This was sent April of 2022. I want to see what the response was. There had to be a response.
I never got a
since
response
September
from him.
14th, 2021. There had to be a response.
I never got a response from him.
Kevin, show this to Mr. Knapp and tell me if he recalls this text message.
Your Honor, no, I do not remember getting this text.
Why would you respond a year later? I know from the past, dealing with Mr. Knapp here, he tends to always, being friends, whenever get into an altercation or argument, he unfollows me, blocks me on everything.
Okay.
So there's a possibility by that text message not going through.
I don't deal in possibilities, sir.
I sent the text message, and I have proof of there. It was delivered, and I never got a response from him.
I'm just asking.
Yeah.
Sir, this incident happened September 11th. You have to understand, I think that if that's what happened. I tend to believe that the defendant did not just willy-nilly take a can and fling it at your face. I want you to know that I don't believe that.
Giovanni Castillo has accused his former friend, Jacob Knapp, of hitting him with a beer can. Jacob says Giovanni asked him to throw it.
Okay, it is more likely than not, that you were sitting with this lady who, according to you, you were supposed to drive home. That's what you said 5 minutes ago. So you were supposed to drive home, which means she was trashed, because that's what you said. You said, I wasn't...
This was the arrangements from the very beginning of the night.
Okay. Do you understand? So we had a whole bunch of trashed people. And I am more likely to believe the defendant when he says you said to him, toss me a beer, and it accidentally hit you in the face.
My questioning is that the...
I don't answer questions.
Okay, well, where the beer was placed on the table, I don't understand why I would have to ask him to toss me a beer when I can simply reach over and grab one myself.
I don't know either. But
no
it
sense.
sounds more likely to me than not that it was his beer, he brought it there, and you said to him, toss me a beer. And you failed to catch it. Now, that doesn't mean that the defendant isn't at least partially responsible for the stupidity of that night. But you have some responsibility, too, because I really don't believe that he left the bar. He was angry and frustrated over something that you had no idea what he was angry and frustrated over, because you were all sitting together. And he just, out of the blue, took a beer and threw it at your face. I don't believe that. Do you understand?
If I could show you a picture here, you could see that if he just simply tossed me a beer, I don't understand how a beer can could chip my tooth the way that it did.
Just a second. It can. It can.
Okay.
I can eat a biscotti and it can chip my tooth. Biscotti, that's a cookie, a very hard cookie. And have. And have. I mean, I could chip my tooth on my grandmother's steak, it was so hard. But certainly from a beer can. So I don't believe that you're blameless. What was your dental bill, sir?
I have the statements here.
While he's looking for that, you understand that if you were sitting there and instead of a bunch of beer cans and the plaintiff said to you, you know, that gun that's in your pocket, toss it over to me, I want to take a look at it. And you did. You took a gun out of your pocket and you tossed it over to him, and as you were tossing it over, it accidentally fired. Would it be his fault if he got shot?
No.
No. Whose fault would it be?
Mine.
Right. Because you weren't supposed to do that.
Right.
Because it was potentially dangerous.
Of course.
Well, same thing with a knife or an explosive device.
Right.
Or something very hot, like toss me a cup of coffee in a container and it splatters. So you don't do what anybody asks you to do if it's not a smart thing to do.
Right.
Unless you're drunk. Unless you're drunk.
Your Honor,
then,
if I may.
Yeah.
Coming from a baseball background, such as me and Gio did,
I don't care about your baseball background. There's no question, sir, that you acknowledge you threw it at him. And I'm telling you that if your excuse is that he asked me to do it, so I followed the fool's directions. I'm telling you, he's going to pay part of his dental bill because I think it was partially his responsibility. But if you acknowledge that you were stupid enough to throw the beer can in his direction, you have to be partially liable. You're two drunks, that's what happens. So don't get so drunk and go to a park. How old are you?
27.
27 is old. And you?
28, Your Honor.
28. You know, old enough not to be so stupid. You know, you can figure 17, 18-year-olds are so stupid. At age 28, you should be doing something constructive. I assume you work?
Yes.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm a chef.
And you?
I'm a lumberman, Your Honor.
Okay, so you're both gainfully employed, letting off a little steam. That's fine. But if there's a problem that develops because anybody is not operating on all cylinders because of alcohol, you have to take responsibility. What was the dental bill?
My dental bill came out to $2,342.
Can I see that, please, Kevin?
I have this here. I'll give you both.
Was any of this dental bill covered by insurance?
On the dental, no.
Okay. Anything else?
My wholeheartedly truth is I didn't ask him for a beer. I had no problems. I was avoiding him the whole night for the most part because from the past, Jacob has had a way worse drinking problem than I've ever gotten to. I went out that night solely to have a couple drinks, hang out with friends. The night went longer than expected.
Very nice. Judgment for the plaintiff for the amount of $1,171, which is half of your dental bill. You pay half. Don't get drunk. You're too old to get drunk. I don't believe that he maliciously threw this at you. I think that you asked for a beer, tossed it at you, and you missed. That was his stupidity and yours. We're done here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Honor.
This court is adjourned.
All I did was I underhand lightly tossed it over to him, and that's really what happened.
I did nothing wrong to deserve to get a beer thrown in my face like a baseball.
Unfortunately, he chipped his tooth, and so it was unfortunate.
I said, hey, Jacob, look, you chipped my tooth. Look what you just did.
No more drinking in the parks, guys.
Not to do it again.
I think this situation is the exact reason cities like Pasadena have rules about drinking alcohol in parks, because like you always say, it's not an on purpose, it's an accident. But a lot of times there are certain things that can increase the probability of an accident happening.
True.
And I think drinking at 2 a.m. in a park probably is one of those things.
That's true. So so many times rules and regulations don't seem to have any substance of reason behind it. But this certainly is an example of why.
Friend and handyman Brandon Hall for check fraud and filing a false restraining order.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, everyone.
Hello, Judge.
Hi.
Case number 2046, Rapp versus Hall.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Rapp, not a very difficult case. The defendant was a friend of yours / did some work for you. It's not really relevant how you met him. It was sort of through a social situation. And it is your claim that over a period of time, Mr. Rapp forged your signature to several checks.
Correct.
And then when confronted by the fact that you've discovered these forgeries and asked him for money, he filed a restraining order against you to keep you away from him, and you say that the restraining order was a false one, and you want to be compensated for having to deal with that.
I do. I misspoke.
Just a second. So I'm going to deal with the restraining order first. When did you file a restraining order, Mr. Hall?
I believe it was the 17th of July.
Of this year?
Yes, ma'am.
So not so long ago. I'd like to see the paperwork that you filed in support, just the paperwork that you gave to the court in support of your restraining order, why you were asking for a restraining order.
Okay.
Don't tell me, is that what you filed with the court?
Yes.
I'd like to see. So let's just be clear. You filed all these documents with the court when you asked for a restraining order?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I've read some of the text messages, and you're aware of what the text messages say.
Yes.
I assume you're aware of what they say. Uncross your hands.
Oh, yes.
And that part of your application for damages as a result of filing a false restraining order is denied. You can't even suggest in a text message that you're going to do something violent in order to get him to pay money that you owe. Do you understand that?
I do.
Okay, so as
Although
frustrated...
the restraining order was dismissed.
It doesn't matter. I'm telling you, I've read it, and some of your text messages sound threatening.
I was angry.
I understand you were angry. The question is not whether he should be granted a restraining order. I don't have to deal with that. I have to deal with the fact that in the text messages, you make certain threats. What if I could? And all that transpired at a time when the defendant reconciled with his wife and family. So, as I said, as a result of reading your text messages, I believe that Mr. Hall had the right to feel threatened and to file for a restraining order. Whether the court that heard the application for a restraining order felt that your behavior warranted a restraining order is another thing. But I can understand why he would file a restraining order to try to keep you away from him and his family.
Oh, yes, ma'am. Sorry.
Great! Now I want you to tell me why you forged her name to checks.
Because she...
$8,800 worth of checks. Now you have the right to file a restraining order.
Because she asked me to do this.
Because she asked you to forge her name to the checks.
Yes.
Okay, I want you to tell me when the first time she asked you to forge her name to a check. And I assume, just like you've kept all these documents.
Yes, ma'am.
You have a document to show me, just one. Because if you show me one, I would tend to think that there were more. So just show me one where she said to you, forge my name to a check.
Okay.
Take the money out and forge my name to a check. Don't say anything. Just show me. Don't shake your head. It's annoying.
I believe this is the first one.
Okay. So in that one, she asks you to sign. Well, maybe. What are you showing me?
The check.
I don't want to see the check. You know how you kept these text messages that you texted back and forth and back and forth? I want you to show me, because you're methodical, one time out of the 6, 7 times that you forged her name to checks, show me one time where she said to you in a text message, in an Instagram, in a pigeon note, where she said to you, take out a check from my checkbook and forge my name to it because I want you to have money. Just show me.
I don't have
Of course
like
not.
That. No.
Of course
No,
not.
I don't.
Now, the first time you forged her name to a check was what month and year?
I believe that it was December 9th.
Of 2021.
Yes, ma'am.
And what were you and Miss Rapp engaged in at that time that she told you to forge her name to a check?
Okay, so I'm an electrician, and I've been an electrician for 13 years. I've been doing side work all around my county, and there's a handful of liquor stores that trust me that I can go and cash personal checks that I get paid for doing my side work. Miss Rapp knew that, and...
Don't tell me what she knew.
Okay, all right. So she would be locked out of her account for one reason or the other, and She would ask me like on a Friday. She wouldn't be able to get access to her money, and I knew she had money.
Well, she couldn't get access to her money, so these weren't your checks you wrote out. You wrote out her checks. It'd
Right.
be frozen out whether you went to take out money or she went to take out money.
Right. Also, on a Friday, the liquor store would not deposit these checks until Monday. So I cashed these checks for her to give her cash.
Did you ever have sex with the plaintiff?
No.
Do you think she wanted to have a relationship with you?
I think so.
Okay.
I don't know.
What makes you think so?
Well, the
text message.
The text message.
The text message that she
Yeah.
said to you. And who is Robert?
Is her ex-boyfriend?
And do you know Robert?
I do.
How do you know Robert?
I'd known Robert for 20 years, been friends.
And when did you start doing work for the plaintiff, before or after Robert? Is not an answer.
It was after.
It was after.
Yes.
Okay. Give me an idea of when. You've cashed the first check in December of 2021. Give me some idea of when you were aware of the fact that the plaintiff and your dear friend of 20 years were no longer an item. Is not an
I
answer.
don't know what month he was arrested. So
Arrested for?
June, maybe?
Arrested for?
I don't know his charges.
I don't believe that.
Okay.
Leslie Rapp claims her former friend and handyman, Brandon Hall, forged her checks and filed a false restraining order against her. Brandon says he had Leslie's permission to write the checks.
I'm just telling you, I don't believe that you don't know the charges of somebody who you were friendly with for 20 years and who was arrested. I don't believe that you don't know, because it belies credulity, okay?
That's fine.
So before your dear friend of 20 years was arrested, did you ever cash any checks for her?
No.
After Robert was arrested? Yes. Did you ever do any work for her before Robert was arrested?
No.
When did you and your wife separate? Month and year.
Maybe February of 21.
And were you still together with Robert in February of 2021?
Yes.
And when did you and the lovely Robert separate?
Robert was removed from my life August 11th of 21.
The defendant acknowledges in his answer that he forged your name, not only your name, your signature, but wrote out checks, actually wrote out in his own handwriting, checks in the amount of $8,800.
Yes.
And he acknowledges that, but he says they were because you asked him to, or it was for work he did for you. Those were your answers, right?
No, these checks were not for any jobs that I did for her. They were strictly to get access to some of her money during the weekends and stuff. And then when she was out of town as well.
Get her access to her money and when she was out of town.
When she was out of town,
if you cashed her checks when she was out of town, how did she get money?
I Venmo'd the money to her.
Okay, so that you have a record of, that you Venmo'd the money to her.
Yes.
I'd like to see it. I'd like to see it.
Here you go. Here's all the Venmo deposits. Her sending me
To
money.
her. No, not. Just a second. Try not to confuse me. I'm an old person. I want to see only the monies, because she's going to show me the checks that you forged. And contemporaneously, which is a close period of time, with those forged checks, you would have put the money in her Venmo account.
On a couple of different occasions, yes.
Just a second. Just show me those cases. She's going to take out the checks that you forged. And those checks should coincide date-wise with the Venmo transactions. Am I doing that right?
Yeah.
Venmo.
Yes.
Your Honor, I don't see where I have the ones that I deposited in her account. These seem to all be her depositing into my account.
Duh.
Yeah. So
Okay.
I do have.
So let us understand this, Ms. Rapp. Did you ever give him permission? The answer is yes or no.
No.
Did you file a police report?
Yes, I did.
You did. I'd like to see a copy of the police report.
I haven't.
Then we're in good shape. Mr. Hall, how many weekly payments did you make to her on Friday?
I have a list of that from.
From February.
This is from Mrs. Rapp in.
No, I'm asking you. I'm asking you, how many payments did you make for writing these unauthorized checks to her?
Seven.
And what was the total amount of those checks?
$3,700.
Why in the world would you pay her $3,700?
If you could look in those messages, I was being She was saying she was going to put me in jail for doing things.
For forgery.
Okay.
For forgery.
Right.
And you asked her not to.
Right.
And you said, I'll pay you back.
Right.
Right. I'll pay you back. Just give me some time. I have 2 kids to support.
Right.
Is that what you said to her?
Yes.
$8,800 judgment for the plaintiff. We're done here.
Is adjourned.
Well, I'm happy about the outcome because
I think it's bogus, man.
I really need the money.
Because she started all this craziness as soon as I went back to my wife.
There was never a relationship between the two of us.
After that, when she started doing all this, is when I went and filed for a restraining order.
He did that as a direct retaliation for the police report I filed.
She's gonna have to call somebody else for sure.
It's definitely time for a new handyman.
Just a casual note.
Yeah.
I have been with my husband, your grandfather, for almost 50 years. And we each have our bank account, and then we have a joint bank account. I have never either asked him or given him permission to sign my signature to a check.
Yep.
He hasn't never asked or given me permission to sign his signature on one of his checks. Now, we may ask each other, listen, it's busy, I'm going to go through these checks. We're making all these checks out to the doorman and to Christmas time and whatever, and then I'll sign them. Just doesn't happen. So
Doesn't make sense.
Right. And so what it is to any job that you do, whether it's a lawyer or a judge, you bring with you your own common sense and your own life's history. I hope that works, because I cannot imagine somebody saying, write out a check for yourself. I don't know you, we're not involved, we're not married, go help yourself.
Sherry and Jeffrey Marshall are suing their neighbors, Joseph and Jennifer Fugate, for an insurance deductible and filing a false police report.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Case number 2074, Marshall versus Fugate.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Mr. and Mrs. Marshall, you live across the street from Mr. Fugate and his mother.
Yes,
How long have you lived in your house?
22 years.
And Mr. Fugate, how long have you lived in your house?
Your Honor, my mom has lived in the house far longer than I have. She's lived in it since 2008. I moved in 2016.
Mr. and Mrs. Marshall, this problem that I'm going to try to rectify today deals with parking space.
Yes.
And the parking space is a public parking space, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
And it's on the street, and the public parking space happens to be in front of your home.
Yes, ma'am.
You live across the street.
Yes, ma'am.
And the case involves acrimony that has developed because you, Mr. Fugate, would like to keep that spot that's in front of your home free for your mother, who you say for health reasons, it would be more convenient for her to park right in front of the house.
Yes, ma'am.
And Mr. and Mrs. Marshall sometimes or always park in that spot. That's what the problem is.
Yes.
Okay. And I assume you're going to speak for your husband for now?
I can, yes.
Do you want her to talk for you?
Sorry.
He learns his lessons well. Oh, that's very good.
You can speak,
I can speak
please.
for myself. If she need to, she can.
Perfect. You've been living there a long time. Did you have any trouble with the Fugate family about this parking space between 2008 and 2016?
No.
So before the son moved in, you had no problem?
That's right.
Had you ever, just a second, had you ever had discussions with Mrs. Fugate about parking in that spot before he came?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Now, Mrs. Fugate, did you understand what I said?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I want you to be very careful in your answer to me.
Yes, ma'am.
You've lived there for a long time.
Yes,
your son didn't move in until 2016. Before your son moved in, did you ever have any communication with Mr. and Mrs. Marshall about parking in front of your house?
Ma'am, she didn't park in front of my house before my son moved in.
Okay. So is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Can you tell me what changed after her son moved in?
Okay, where I park at is actually across the street from the Fugates. It's right by my driveway, and I park my Toyota Avalon right beside my driveway, which is the parking spot that Mr. Fugate is causing the problems over.
So it's the parking spot is in front of your house?
No, it's not in front of my house. It's beside my driveway.
But on your side of the house?
That's
on your
correct.
side of the street?
Correct.
Do they have a parking space in front of their house on their side of the street?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you ever park there?
I have. When they took the parking space I usually park in, I did park across the street.
Okay, so occasionally, either Mr. Fugate, his mother, parks on your side of the street, on a public street, and you'll park in front of their house.
Correct.
Okay, I got it. Okay, so let me tell you all this. We're going to finish part of the case right now. Too bad. You can park wherever you want on a public street because there are other visitors that come, I assume, for people who live on the block, that they take up parking spaces, and occasionally there aren't other parking spaces. You know, there's no question you would prefer to park on your side of the street, and you would prefer to park on your side of the street. If you can't, you can't. Mr. Fugate, I'm just telling you, just so that you know, you have no right to a public parking space.
Yes, I understand that, Your Honor. I'm not the one that needs to be told that, though.
You have no right to a public parking space.
Yes, ma'am.
Where do you live, in what state?
Ohio, Cincinnati.
Okay, I've actually been to Cincinnati frequently, but I am certain that there is no regulation in Ohio or any city or town thereof that says, well, you sort of had first dibs on the parking space on the public street that's in front of your house. That's ridiculous.
The best that Cincinnati has, Your Honor, is a 3-day law that if the vehicle doesn't move within 3 days, then it could be towed by the city. But that's the best that they have.
You live across the street from each other. Did either of you ever call the police and say a car has been there for more than 3 days?
Yes, Your Honor.
Who did?
I did, Your Honor.
Why?
Because the spot in question that's directly across the street is actually, it's hindering to the entire flow of the neighborhood and where everybody parks on the street. I served 10 years Army, and I fought for people.
Listen, I don't care if you're a good person, if you're not a good person, if you're a do-gooder, if you're not a do-gooder. It's a public street. And if what you're suggesting to me is they should be nice, it's an older person, and they shouldn't park in that spot, what I'm telling you is I wouldn't start up with anybody by calling the police on a car that especially a car that I knew. I know that it's my neighbor's car. They've been living there for 22 years, relatively peacefully. Relatively peaceful.
It hasn't really been peaceful, Your Honor.
You moved there.
Yes, I did.
They were living there a decade before you moved there. You.
Yes, ma'am.
If it wasn't peaceful, there are options. You're a free person. But I think it's absolutely ridiculous. I cannot imagine my calling the police on a neighbor's car that was parked in the street. Well, that created problems. Okay, so I see where we're going. We're going to get to this case. Reimbursement for insurance deductible, that's one thing, because you claim that Mr. Fugate damaged your car.
Yes, ma'am.
On what date?
That was on June the 26th.
Of this year?
Of 21, I'm sorry.
Okay. Do you have any video evidence of the damage to your car?
No, ma'am. All I have is a picture.
Tell me how he damaged the car. With what did he damage the car?
Okay. He damaged the car with his hand. I'm parking the car.
You mean in front of?
In front of Mrs. Fugate's home.
So on her side of the street?
Yes, ma'am. I exit the car. Mr. Fugate is being erratic.
No, don't tell me what your perception of. Tell me what he did.
He was beating the hood of the car.
He came up to the car and was hitting the top of the car?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now I'll see the car and the police report. See the dent, and that's the hood of the car. Okay. Okay, as this police report says, Mr. Fugate told the police in his narrative that this incident occurred, there was a disagreement over the parking space, and that you struck him with the car, causing minor injury. Okay, because you have a cross complaint for that.
That is correct.
Okay. So that's a simple. June 26th, I see the car was damaged. There's no question it was damaged by somebody pounding on the hood, and I assume that was you.
Ma'am, that's wrong. I did not pound on the hood.
Well, then tell me, Mr. Fugate, how these dents occurred, just the way they look, on the hood of the car.
Your Honor, I have the 911 audio calls of the night, as well as the police report, and I also drew up a diagram where she was originally parked that explains everything. But,
okay, so I'd like to see that. Okay.
Ma'am, if I could approach the diagram.
Absolutely. June 26th.
On June 26th, I was talking to my parents when the marshals came home. My car was parked right here. Okay, they came home, they blocked their own driveway and parked right up on top of my bumper.
Just a second.
Just
a second. So you, Mr. Fugate, were parked on a public street where you could park on their side of the street, not your side of the street, okay?
Yes, sir.
And they came up blocking their own driveway.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Did you see them? Were you in the house watching?
No, I was on my parents' porch.
Okay, so now you're on your parents' porch, they're in their car, and they blocked their own driveway.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
Not a big ordeal, right?
Not any of your business.
Right, it wasn't, like I said, wasn't a problem to me,
wasn't any of your business.
Exactly. So
Go ahead.
Anyway, I'm talking to my parents on the phone. They're just getting done working. I can hear that the marshals are upset about where I'm parked at on a public street. And I went out to save my parents' spot because I could hear her say, I'm gonna teach him a lesson.
So, Mr. Fugate, now, is what you're telling me that that car where you're standing in, you went out to make it so that they could not park on a public street? Is that what you're telling me? The answer is yes.
Yes.
You got off the porch to stand in the street to block them from moving in front of your house because your car was parked on their side of the street.
No, no, Your Honor. No, you got that wrong.
Is that red car yours?
The red car is mine.
It's mine.
Yes, Your Honor.
Just to say, the red car is yours. Listen, I'm not a moron.
I know that.
The white car is the space that you wanted to save for your parents.
Yes, Your Honor. They were on their way home. I was
Who
talking to
gives
them.
a rat's behind where they were?
Sherry and Jeffrey Marshall claim their neighbors, Joseph and Jennifer Fugate, owe for an insurance deductible and filing a false police report. Joseph and Jennifer are countersuing for medical bills from an assault.
Now, you went out on a public street to go like this to save a parking space for your parents.
Yes,
that you had no right to do. Let me just understand this. You had no right to go out there. You parked on their side of the street, and then you went outside to save the spot because your parents were on their way home.
Yeah,
Just a second. You have no right to do that. Zero. Don't you understand that?
No, actually, I don't understand that, Your Honor. How do I not have a right to save a spot?
You do not have a right to
my
save a
elderly
public
parents?
Just a second. You don't have that right because I'm here to tell you. You don't have a right to save a spot on a public street by standing in the street like this. Don't park here.
And I'm not like this.
I don't care whether you were hopping on one foot and chewing gum. You don't have the right to save a spot, and it makes it twice as obnoxious because you parked on their side of the street. Now, if there was a spot in front of their house that they could park in and they said, no, I'm going to park in front of the defendant's house, I could say, you know what? That's nasty.
Well, that's
just that
thing,
nasty.
Your Honor.
Now you have
this
both
whole
spots.
area was clear, okay? And there is a crossing road that comes all the way through here, and they could have parked.
Who made you the monitor of public parking?
No one.
Who do you think you are to be the monitor of public parking? Get back.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so now, Mr. Monitor of Public Parking, you come out and you're standing in the street to save the spot. She comes around to park there, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Tell me what happened.
Well, she came around to park there, and then she hit me with her car.
Just a second. She came around to park there, and you were standing in the street.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, pay careful attention. Where did she hit you in the car before you moved?
She hit me in the knee.
In the knee. And so you jumped out of the way. No.
I fell on her car. I guess I was talking on the phone, And when she hit me in the knee, I fell on her car.
Baloney! That's not what this is. What was the damage to your car?
The damage.
That's baloney. That didn't happen because your elbow went on her car. Sir, if she hit you on the knee, she hit you on the knee with the front of her car, which is possible. By the way, you have medical records to show me?
I do.
I'd like to see them. The record should reflect that they closed this case, made no arrests in this case, and probably told everybody to behave themselves, which is what I'm doing.
I apologize.
Okay. What is this?
That is the ambulance bill for...
I want to see a medical record. I don't care if you went in an ambulance. I want to see what the doctor reported about your injury. Where is that?
I was unable to get that.
Well, that's too bad. Then I'm not interested in this. That's nonsense. Okay, how much did it cost to fix your car?
Here we are. Thank you.
And you had a $500 deductible?
Yes, ma'am.
$500 so far for the plaintiff. The counterclaim that talks about medical bills for this is dismissed. Okay, filing a false police report.
Yes, ma'am.
And the false police report you're talking about is what?
Mrs. Fieldgate initiated a confrontation with me.
When?
December the 22nd. I'm on my way to my vehicle. Mrs. Fieldgate is parked maybe like 10 feet behind me.
Put up the diagram again, please. Okay, just go over to the board. This is a different date, but I just want you to show me where she was and where you were.
Okay. Mrs. Fieldgate was parked right about here.
She parked right about there, which is opposite your house.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And I'm parked here.
In front of her house?
Correct.
Okay, so you're both on the same side of the street, which is the defendant's side of the street. You're parked across the street from your house.
That's correct.
Got it. Go ahead.
Okay.
What happened?
And Mrs. Fieldgate, she comes out of her car. She's walking towards me. She's upset. She's yelling. And I don't remember all of the words that she was saying, but it was about parking. She was telling me I couldn't park where I was parked at. She's yelling. She's screaming. I'm trying to reason with her.
Could you step back there?
Yes. I'm trying to reason with Miss Fieldgate. I'm telling her it's a public street and I can park there. She's yelling and screaming and telling me that I can't. We're standing in front of one another. She's still yelling and screaming. I'm trying to reason with her. Next thing I know, she hits me on the hand. My reflex, I pushed her back. Next thing I know, she's still standing after I pushed. Next thing I know, I guess she thought about it, and then she made herself fall on the ground.
Well, I don't know whether she did or not. Somebody said with regard to this that there's a video of this. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
It was dismissed in court. It wasn't showed in court.
I don't care whether it's shown in court or not. I would like to see, because I read here that there is a security video of what happened on. If it's a video, you don't have to go up there, Ms. Fugate, because I can actually see it myself. So now, those are the two cars parked on the same side of the street, and they are parked on the defendant's side of the street.
Yes, ma'am.
And your car is the...
Black car.
Your car is the black car, their car is the red car.
That's correct.
And that's Ms. Fugate getting out of her car. Okay,
Yes,
now I'd like to see the video.
She started to move up. So I thought I'd move my car a little closer.
Shh! Don't speak.
That's when she...
Shh! Okay, I'm going to see that again, please. And I'd like you to do it slowly at some point when they're right in each other's faces and getting very nasty. Oh, no, Miss Marshall, you can't do that.
It wasn't my intention.
Oh, just a second.
When she
It was absolutely your intention.
No,
it was
not.
absolutely your intention, and there was. Listen, you know, I'm an equal opportunity abuser. You can't do that. You can't do what I just saw. What I just saw is unreasonable behavior and totally inconsistent to being. Maybe, which I didn't see, slapped on the hand.
Right.
Maybe slapped on the hand. I didn't see it. But I did see you give her a substantial shove, and she is a person who has a certain infirmity, and she fell. And if she fell, and if she was injured, you're responsible. That's it.
Sherry and Jeffrey Marshall have accused their neighbors, Joseph and Jennifer Fugate, of damaging their car. Jennifer claims she was assaulted by Sherry over a parking spot.
Now, I saw the video. I don't have to have your mother testify. You should have not created an incident, Mrs. Fugate.
I didn't.
Yes, no, yes, just a second. Yes, you did.
I was walking toward the car, and I was to go to my car and pull up because she was starting to pull her car up. And if you look, she started to pull her car up first. And then when she come around the car, she's holding her cell phone yelling, I got you on recording. I'm recording you because I'm going to show you a hate crime. Excuse me.
Just a second. Part of the problem is you and your son have to understand that you have no right to the parking spaces that are on a public street, just a sec, in front of your house. And your son clearly is a provocateur in this because he parks his car on their side of the street. I'm not getting, so what I'm doing is I am dissecting this case. If I have two unreasonable people, they're going to continue to make each other's lives miserable, and I can't control that. All I can do is hear each individual side. So, Mrs. Fugate, I have already said that Miss Marshall had no right, based upon what I saw, to push you with such force that you fell. I would like to see the medical report after the incident of December 22nd. May I see it, Kevin?
I was in the ER.
Okay.
And I had to wear a brace for a month on my arm and shoulder.
Did you have any out-of-pocket expense?
I paid $900 because it was Christmas holidays.
All I want to know is, did you have any out-of-pocket expense?
Yes, Your Honor.
And yes, I had.
Shh. What is this?
It's
I had to have a woman come in and clean my house.
I don't care about that.
That was out of.
I don't care about that. Return that to her. That's a cleaning bill for somebody to come in and clean. Let her clean. Okay. So, filing a false police report and false arrest. Who was arrested?
I was.
And you were arrested, in my judgment, legitimately, because of based upon what I saw. So I'm dismissing.
That is not why they arrested me.
Oh, okay. So that is not the reason that you were arrested. Was not this.
The reason why I was arrested is because when she hit me and when I pushed her back, when they asked me what happened, I did not tell them that she had struck me.
Miss Marshall, is the reason you were arrested based upon the occurrence of December 22nd? That's easy.
Yes, it was.
Well, that's what I said. So don't say no. The reason you were arrested and claim falsely is as a result of the December 22nd incident.
But I was cleared.
I don't care whether you were cleared or not. I didn't clear you. The burden of proof in a criminal case is proof by beyond a reasonable doubt, okay? That is not the burden of proof in a civil proceeding. It's a much lower standard. I looked at that video. I believe that your conduct was unconscionable.
And not hers. You didn't see.
I think that her behavior was stupid. I don't.
Yeah.
Just a second. I don't see her hitting you. I see you walking away, Miss Marshall. I see you walking away, but I saw you give her a shove that, as you say, she decided to fall back down. No, madam. You hit her with such force that she fell backward. You say no, I say yes.
Yeah.
I'm a judge. I win. So you, on your case, I said, absolutely. I don't believe him. I don't believe that the damage to your car resulted from his putting his elbow on it. I told him, you have absolutely no right to save a space for your parents. I'm awarding.
The case is malicious.
Okay.
From what you saw him do, that's what she did. She installed a camera, set me up, manured me in front of the camera. She knew what she was doing when she hit me on the hand.
Okay, very.
She knew.
Just a second. Just a second.
All of it is
Just a second.
malicious.
It's not your judgment that I'm concerned about, madam. I'm telling you, based upon what I saw, I'm awarding Mrs. Fugate, who I think she and her son both have to understand what a public street is. I'm awarding her $2,000 on her counterclaim for her injuries as a result of the assault. I'm dismissing part of your claim for false arrest. I awarded you the $500 that you asked for your deductible. You got your $500. It's coming off the $2,000 that I've awarded Mrs. Fugate for her injuries, judgment on the counterclaim for $1,500. Thank you very much. We're done.
This court is adjourned.
I wouldn't have never maliciously pushed anybody.
I've been trying to tell this story forever.
I didn't know what else she was going to do. I was trying to protect myself.
It really does harden me that there are people out there that could go and just do this.
I have always been friendly. I never bother anyone. They keep bothering us.
We're really hoping that this does resolve the issue.
I just want them to leave us alone.
Bring them to Judy Justice.
Because she really does care.
You want to know how I know that the plaintiff wasn't being truthful when she said that I wasn't being malicious, it was an accident, I did not push her that hard? If that had happened to me and I was just trying to get someone away from me, and that reaction from the defendant of falling back, I thought she almost cracked her head on the curb. I would have said, I'm so sorry, oh my goodness, I would have gone down to her, I didn't mean to push you, let me help you up. The plaintiff just walked right back to her car, and you could see her face almost had a smirk on it, just walked right back to her car like she didn't even care. And that, to me, says you knew exactly what you were doing when you put your hands on that woman.
Yeah, and I didn't see a slap.
It could have happened.
I said it could have happened. It could have happened. I just didn't see it.
That reaction was
an
above and beyond.
overreaction.
Of course. Yeah.
Clun for a semi-automatic rifle.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case 2055, Lukoski versus Clun.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Lukoski, am I correct that you own or manage a shooting range?
Yes, it's a target range. It's on my own property that I own in northern Minnesota.
And it's licensed to do commercial target shooting?
Not necessarily. What I do is...
What is not necessarily? What does that mean?
Well, for 19 years, I have been a firearms instructor for the permits to carry for the sheriff's department in my county. Okay. So I don't believe that the training is good enough that the people are getting to be able to carry handguns on the street. So I give them a free additional training session at my range.
You also sell guns?
I do not sell guns, no.
How do you make money, is my question.
So I give money by charging people for the class.
Well, that's what I'm talking. You charge people
yes.
to use, and you don't need a license to run that sort of operation in your county.
No, you have to be a registered NRA instructor, which is also,
Are you?
Yes, I am, ma'am.
For how long?
Oh, I've been doing this for 19 years.
The case is really not very complicated, but let me see if I can break it down to its most basic elements. There was a gentleman who regularly came to your range.
Yes.
And his first name was?
Jim.
How long had he been coming to your range?
A couple of years at least.
And then, according to what you indicate in your complaint, and Mr. Clun doesn't deny it, he got sick. And according to you, the nature of his illness, you felt prevented him from using a heavier weapon.
Yes, ma'am.
And so you loaned to him, because of his illness, a rifle.
Yes, ma'am.
What kind of rifle did you
It
loan?
was a sporting rifle. It was very lightweight.
What kind?
It was called a PS-90. That was the model.
PS?
PS as in Sam, 90.
Would you take a look at that, Sarah, please?
I have a picture of it, Your Honor, if you'd like to see one.
I would.
It's very unusual. Thank you.
Okay.
I see it. Thank you.
And on approximately what month and year did you loan Jim this gun?
Well
is not an answer, so let's think carefully, because we know we're coming.
Probably a month approximately before he died, which was
I don't know when that
September.
was.
September 8th, I believe he passed away in 2021.
How did you find out that he passed away?
I believe Mary here, who's here because of the fact that she caregave for him while he was going through cancer treatments. She was his reason for staying alive. And she also did witness some things that happened in this case.
Okay, I'll get to you in a second. So he passed away on November 8th.
He died on September 9th.
9th?
Yeah.
Okay.
And okay.
Prior to his passing away, Jim and Mr. Clun had some business deal. And Mr. Clun believed that Jim owed him money. So far, right?
Correct.
And after Jim died, Mr. Clun went to Jim's home and took several things from the home to satisfy that debt.
No, I did not do that, Your Honor. I never came back to the house. I never took anything. Everything I received prior to his death.
Okay. Tell me when you received the gun that belonged to Mr. Lukoski.
Looks like 5/20/21.
Can I see what you have that indicates that you received the gun in May? Because you gave it to him about a month before he died?
Approximately a month.
Well,
could have been a little longer.
It had to be longer.
Okay.
I picked it up the 5th month.
In May?
Yes.
Okay, and you couldn't have given it to him in August.
Yeah, you're right.
It had to be before then.
Okay.
And tell me the circumstances, because that's what this case is about. Mr. Lukoski claims that it was his gun. It was a loan. You had no right because you took it. You got it, evidently, you want to tell me, from Jim, and then subsequently sold it.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So I want you to tell me the circumstances surrounding your getting possession of this gun in May of 2021.
Jim was in need of money, so I loaned him money, and in trade for the money as collateral, he said he would...
Okay. And I'm going to let you tell me this because Jim's not here, so I'm going to have to get more specifics from people who were his caregivers to buttress what you're saying to me. He needed some money. How did you know him?
Best friends from high school.
And you remained friends?
Yes.
How did you find out that Jim needed money?
Jim called me up, and he was getting scammed, but he wanted the money, and he told me
he was getting scammed by whom?
I don't know who it was, but anyway, I would give him $2,500. He would go to the post office and mail it somewhere. But every time he did that, I would receive collateral of motorcycles or guns.
Just a second. I want you to run this by me. Jim called you and said, I'm being scammed?
No. I think he's being scammed.
I don't care what you think.
Okay.
What you think is unimportant to me. I want you to tell me the circumstances surrounding the money that you gave to him. He called you and said...
He needed to borrow money. I borrowed him the money.
No. I need to borrow money. Had you ever loaned him money before?
Yes.
Often?
No. In the last year of his life, I did probably a half a dozen times.
Just in the last year. So when he called you and said, I need to borrow some money, the reaction, even from a best friend, would be, of course, if you need money, tell me why. Right? That's a natural question. And so that's what you asked him. Tell me why.
And I asked him that question, and he said he was going to be receiving $1 million or $2 million in the next few months.
Okay.
Lukoski claims business owner Gene Clun owes for a semi-automatic rifle.
So did you ask him how?
I asked him how, and he said he had it all planned with this guy he was sending the money to.
That's all he told you about it? Or did he go into specifics? He did. It had to sound interesting to you, Mr. Clun, because if my best friend called me and said, I need to borrow some money, and I said, tell me why. And she said, because I'm going to come into $1 million shortly, but I need to borrow money to get it to this guy before I get the $1 million. I would say, explain that to me.
And I did. And he said...
And he said...
He said that he would be receiving money in the next month or 2 months.
Mr. Clun, then you would say, how does that, and can I get in on it? You know, if I'm sending you $2,500, which is what you said you gave him, I would say, oh, gee, $2,500, that's a reasonable investment, and I'm going to get a return on my money of $1 million shortly. I would say, is there any piece of that for me?
I didn't question him. He just wanted the money, and he said in return for the money, he would give me the motorcycles and guns as collateral.
Okay. May I please see the written agreement that you had?
Verbal.
So other than you and Jim, nobody knew about this agreement?
Not that I'm aware of.
Now, when was the first time you gave him money?
Looks like May.
May?
Of 2021.
Okay. When was the last time you gave him money?
7/6/21.
Between May of 2021 and the beginning of July, how many times did you give him money?
4 times.
And you have that documented with bank records, etc.
Right here, Your Honor.
Okay, great. And tell me how much in total you gave him. So in total, you gave him $7,500. And in return, according to you, you took possession of how many motorcycles?
3 motorcycles.
And they belonged to Jim.
And he signed over the titles and everything to me.
Well, they were collateral.
Right. But he signed over everything and gave me the titles for everything.
I see the titles to the motorcycles.
They're sold, ma'am.
Interesting.
As well as the rifles that I got also.
I'm just asking you, do you have the sales receipts from the 3 motorcycles? There were 3? Did you say 3?
Yeah.
Do you have the sales receipts from the 3 motorcycles that you say you sold?
No, but I was paid $5,000 in cash for the 3
How am I supposed to know that, sir?
Okay,
You sold
well,
3
anyway,
motorcycles.
Okay.
How am I supposed to know? I mean, all of this is coming out of nowhere, actually, with no proof whatsoever, unless you're prepared to give me some flesh on this bone of a case. Could you stand up? Your first name is Mary?
Yes, it is.
What's your last name?
Wellman.
Were you Jim's caregiver?
Yes, I lived in the upstairs of his house.
Were you a tenant?
We were friends since the late 90s when I first moved to the area.
So regular caregiver of his, or were you just as needed?
He developed cancer in the late 90s, and I stayed, then I lived with him in the first 2 years because of the 50-50 survival rate and the constant trips to the Mayo Clinic from where we lived were an entire day trip. And then after about 3 years, when he was kind of back on his feet again, I moved out, but we remained friends and we rode motorcycles together and we did lots together. And
so you lived in the house?
Yeah, and I moved back in okay.
Okay. Were you living in the house when he bought these 3 motorcycles?
2 of them I was. A dual sport that he had changed or upgraded to ride a little bit more rough terrain, possibly into Canada.
Okay, just to...
yeah.
That's why that much flesh on the bones I don't need.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Did he buy them new or used?
He had bought them used.
In approximately what year?
Well, would have been during the cancer, and so it approximately 2000 to 2003.
Do you know anything else about his dealings with Mr. Klun?
I do know the motorcycles were in the garage when Jim died.
No, they weren't.
Don't.
Okay.
Don't speak. How do you know that?
Well, I had on and off go out there for things, but then Jim's nephew had come and removed one of the bikes right after Jim had passed away.
So the nephew came and removed one?
Mm-hmm.
But this was after he passed?
Yes.
What's the nephew's first name?
Anthony.
Do you know Anthony, Mr. Klun?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Did you get the motorcycle from Anthony?
Nope, I got the motorcycles from Jim, the motorcycles that were left after Jim passed away.
Okay. Now you can sit down.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Klun. Do you have any statements, text messages, or anything else indicating that Jim indicated to you that he could give you as collateral this rifle, other than the fact that he had it in his possession?
I got more than 1 rifle. I have checks that were written out to Jim, and that's what we did.
But that doesn't answer my question, Mr. Klun. I don't care how many rifles you had. He only had 1 that he gave to Jim because it was lighter and easier to shoot. And as his illness progressed, if I'm getting this right, it was hard for him to pick up his own rifle. Now, he may have had more, probably did have more, because you took more than 1, right?
Correct.
Okay. How many rifles did you take?
I took 3 rifles, 5 pistols. I had to bring 3 of the rifles back.
Where?
To Jim to get replacements. The guns that were from Mr. Lukowski.
Only 1?
3 of them.
No, he said he only gave him 1.
Oh, no, but there was 3 of them.
So you brought Mr. Lukowski's gun back to Jim while he was alive?
No, I sold the gun.
Keep going. You sold...
This specific...
Just tell the truth. You don't have to have a good memory.
Is accusing business owner Gene Klun of selling his semi-automatic rifle without permission.
Keep going. So you sold it. You didn't take it back to him to get a replacement.
No,
to Jim.
You misunderstood. The gun that Mr. Lukowski had, I kept that one.
The one that belongs to Mr. Lukowski, you sold it.
Correct, because...
So just a second. Sold it to whom?
The gun dealer in Virginia, Minnesota.
Great. And for that, you have a receipt.
Yes.
I'd like to see it.
I left it at home.
Oh.
Your Honor, I have
Mr. Clun.
Oh,
Mr.
he has
Clun,
it right
let
there.
Mr. Clun, he doesn't have to prove anything to me. I believe that you resorted to self-help to claim a debt. If it's true, and you did in fact give him money, I actually don't believe that a guy like you would give him all this money without trying to find out what the scam was, or at least tell him, Jim, it sounds to me like you're being scammed. Somebody in Transylvania sent you an email that said a long-distant relative of yours died and left you $1 million. I need $2,500 in order to clear the paperwork to send you $1 million. And I will keep a little piece for myself for finding you. You know how many of those everybody gets? I don't know why people still believe that, but you evidently believed that story 4 times. And not once did you say your friend who was dying of cancer, Jim, this is ridiculous. What you're doing is just throwing good money after bad. I don't understand why you didn't say that to him, or if you did, you would not have said to him, unless you had something to gain, which clearly you did. You sold the motorcycles. You don't have any proof of what you sold them for. You expect me to take your word for the fact that you sold them for $5,000 in cash without proof. He owed you, if I were to believe you and these checks, $7,500. You sold the motorcycles, you sold guns, but unfortunately, one of the things that you sold belonged to the plaintiff. And when somebody dies, there is an estate. There's a judge who decides what property there is. You know, if heaven forbid something happened to me and my dentist thought that I owed him $25,000, he couldn't come into my house and say, gee, I like this Ming vase. This Ming vase is just going to cover my dental bill. You can't do that. And that's what you did. You sold property. You may have had a claim against his estate if he, in fact, owed you money and if the estate went to probate. I don't know. Did he own a house?
Yes.
Yes. Did he have children?
No, he left the house to me.
Okay. So he had an estate. Clearly, there's money in the estate because he left a house that has some value to someone else. So you cannot, Mr. Clun, resort to self-help. And Mr. Lukoski is going to show me the value of the gun that his...
Yes. May I expound just a bit on this gun?
I don't care about
the manufacturer.
I don't care about the gun. I don't care if it's a crown in my mouth. What's the value of the gun?
The value of the gun at the time that this man took possession of it.
Just give me an answer.
It was $3,000. It's gained in value.
Okay, well, who cares if it's gained in value, sir? I'd like you to show me where the gun is valued at $3,000. Did you look it up?
I did. I have it. It's listed from the same photo. I found the website listed for $2,500.
Okay. My law clerk found an ad online. Now you're going to show me what you want to show me, that the value is $3,000. Let me see it, please.
May I say something else about this gun?
Not until I look at this. I don't know what this is. Immediate checkout credit card. What is this?
Look at the very top, please.
I see what this is. I want to see what you paid for. This is something that's on sale, starting bid.
It's just a typical price of what they sell for on Gunbroker.
Okay. $2,500?
Yes.
Okay. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,500. We're finished. Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
I'm pleased at the outcome because the information needed to be exposed that there was something terribly wrong.
Somebody waits for 10 months and finds out his gun is missing.
To many different people, and no one had the same answer from him at any time.
Something's wrong.
I don't think he had a choice. There was the only way he was going to win his case because everything's based on mistruths.
I could not get my mind around the defendant to have a friend since high school that you're best friends with, you remained good friends with. If one of my best friends came to me and told me, hi, I just need to borrow $2,500, I'm going to be a millionaire 2 months from now, I'd say, are you crazy? There's so many of these scams going around. I know I've seen your phone sometimes gets tripped up with the scammers and in the middle of the night ringing off the hook. It's unfortunate that people fall for these scams and really send their hard-earned money, sometimes that they don't have, to these scam artists, and they're never going to see it again. And I think that people have to be really vigilant. I know there's been warnings and things like that I've seen more publicized recently about scams and just how detailed and intricate they can seem, but it's really just...
I get them all the time, as you said.
Yeah.
I have to go like this and then delete.
Delete.
Anton, please answer immediately. Your $3,000 refund is sitting here waiting for you.
Non-existent.
No, sometimes they leave out Anton. Your $3,000 refund is here.
Yeah, gotta be smart.
And, you know, Sarah, a couple of years ago, I don't know whether you remember, but I just thought about it. People were calling me and saying to me, Judy, I didn't know that you went into the cosmetics business.
Oh, yes, I do remember.
And the people who crafted the advertisement, you know, with all kinds of real logos on the top
reviews
of it.
and
Reviews, and I tried this stuff. And I remember being at the gym working out, and a woman came over to me and said, you know, I bought your cosmetics, and they were really terrible. And they keep sending them to me every month.
And probably charging her credit card.
Charging her credit card. And I tried every vehicle in the government to try to get somebody to
shut it down.
Track it down. And the answer was, they're so smart that they use international, you don't know where they could be. They could be in Peru, they could be in Chile, they could be in Brazil, they can be in Canada. And I know that there are many other celebrities who were caught with the same scam net. But this guy said, my friend Jim
was probably getting scammed. Then why would you provide him the money to get scammed?
Absolutely right.
Các bạn ơi, vậy là mình đã hoàn thành xong chú cá mập có hàm răng sắc nhọn, có cả một chiếc vây ở trên và một chiếc vây ở dưới nữa. Chú cá mập của mình có thể di chuyển như thế này. Các bạn thấy có vui không nào? Các bạn hãy cùng mình làm thật nhiều những hình dáng thủ công, các con vật ngộ nghĩnh đáng yêu nhé. Xin chào.